I think you kind of have to remember to allow yourself that some days are going to feel totally crappy and you're going to be overwhelmed and exhausted, and you're going to go to bed early, and tomorrow's a new day. And I think it's just honoring that energy sometimes, but also realizing, am I creating this negative down energy all the time because I'm absorbing so much, and allowing myself to kind of have that, this sucks. I'm just going to let it suck until it's better, right? So we need to sometimes create our own good, positive energies, and sometimes we just need to let it suck.
You're listening to My Evolved Life, a podcast that simplifies health and fitness and helps you maximize your life. My name is Vuna Nguyen, and I'm the creator of the Evolution Training System. We're so lucky to be living in the information age, meaning it's easier than ever to access information and find answers to any questions you may have. But isn't it confusing when you read information that's conflicting, or worse yet, just sounds wrong? I'll be sitting down with industry professionals to give you clarity and leave you with tangible actions you can take immediately to improve your physical, mental, and psychological health. Today, I welcome back Laura Davies. She's a nutritionist and a life coach. And the last time she was here, we had a beautiful conversation about things you can do to take control of your life, how to create good habits, how to get rid of bad ones. And today, I think that is particularly important given the situation that we're in. Of course, I am referring to the pandemic known as COVID. So Laura, I'm just going to quickly pass it on to you. I don't think you require much of an introduction. You've been here before. So what are the biggest observations that you've seen now that we are 5 to 6 weeks into self-isolation, and what are you hearing from your clients?
A lot from my clients I would hear is their fear. So they're struggling between not showing fear to their kids or not buying into the fear, but also how to be cautious. Some days are really good. Some days they're really fearful. So one of the biggest ones I've been working with my clients a lot on is fear, and then teaching them to what they can control is to focus on that. So a lot of it is the fear. So we've been focusing a lot on maybe not watching the news so much, because as soon as you turn it on, that's all you're hearing about, right? So it's the fear, it's, how many deaths and how it's spreading and things like that. So a big part of their day is based around watching and hearing the fear, and that taking that all in. Your brain's just so overwhelmed. You go into that state of fight or flight, and then that spirals you into that negative downward depression cycle. There's a lot of people who are fearful to leave their house, but those were their outlets for going and dealing with depression or anxiety, or maybe they had social anxiety and now it's even worse, right? So it's giving them some tools and some support to help them be able to cope while being at home, or if they do have to go out, giving them some peace of mind or helping them find something that would be a peace of mind for them.
So the topic of the news comes up quite a bit in conversations like these. I think it's very easy for us to say, stay off of social media, don't watch the news. But at a certain point, even if you're conscious about that, it becomes almost impulsive. Let's just quickly turn it on and see what happens. How do you fight impulse? Because it is your state of normal. That's what you're used to.
Yeah, and a lot of people wake up before they go to work, and that's what they watch, or they check their phones and things like that, right? So that's already part of your daily habit. So what I've told people to do is, if you're going to wake up and watch the news, try and follow up with something good. So even especially before bed, because we're watching the news, we're trying to relax in the evening, and your impulse is put on the news to hear, and you're hoping to hear something good, right? But chances are you're not. So follow up with something good. Maybe watch a comedy show. We've been watching a lot of comedy at night because it brings you out of that fight or flight state to give you a little bit of that laughter and bringing you into that rest and digest state, which is going to allow you to sleep better. Because again, if you're not sleeping because you're worried and you're fearful and what's tomorrow going to bring, then you're not sleeping. It's all going to turn into that downward spiral. So if you are, and that is part of your impulse to watch the news daily, then follow it up with something good. Usually it's cartoons for us in the morning. But find something that's, maybe throw on a podcast or a new app where you could watch like an upbeat video or a motivational thing, just so that you can kind of take yourself from that, like thinking about all that fearful, to like, okay, but there is still this good, and we are going to come out of this eventually, right?
One of the really curious things is, even for me, like I think about it, and I think about my clients and my customers in specifically, and I worry about them because we, even in a statement like that, we have to avoid things that make us fearful and what have you. We still have to strike a certain balance between avoiding avoidance and acceptance, because we are in fact going through this, right? So
Exactly.
we can't pretend like it's not happening, but at the same time we don't want to be absorbed by the fact that it's happening. how do
Yeah.
you how would you guide somebody through this process into that balance?
Well, it's the same as, there's a lot of people who absorb energies really quickly from other people. And that's something that I've been practicing a lot, is not taking on other people's energy. And even in your household, you can tell somebody's in a bad mood. You kind of take on that energy. You think like, was it me? Are you going to try and fix that? Or how are you going to be a part of that? Or taking on that negative energy. So I think one of the big things is you are watching all this fear and negativity and sadness, really, is okay, now I'm going to look at my day. Is this right now? Am I sick? No. Am I doing the things for me to keep me healthy? Yes. Okay. So start going through that list. And if you need to, put some things down on paper, like, I am taking care of myself. I'm eating healthy, as healthy as I can. I'm taking my vitamins. I'm sleeping. All of those things. I'm taking precautions, right? And that kind of gives them that, okay, I'm in control of what I can control right now. That way, they're not, buying into the, well, I'm completely out of control. I don't know if I'm going to get this, or how's this going to affect me, because it is very unknown. And that's what puts your brain into that fearful state, and you start like thinking, you're going down that rabbit hole of what could happen. So when you are absorbing all that fear from the news and things like that, if you can kind of switch that over to, okay, well, what can I do in my control? So to, pass off some of this fear, I'm going to focus on relieving my stress, because stress weakens your immune system. We know that, right? So I'm going to focus on bringing down my stress levels. And that way, okay, that I've done my part to protect my immune system for today. There, I can let go of some of that fear.
Your role as a life coach. Now, I know that as a life coach, you play many different roles, but one of them is you help people create good habits, you help people create maybe realistic goals or what have you. But I know that the language around it in this scenario changes a little bit, because you also don't want to be putting yourself under too much pressure to be productive and what have you, right? Even
Yeah.
though you have way more time, so you feel the urge to be more productive, but you're also teetering on really sensitive mental health, right? So how
Yeah.
do you approach the whole topic of habits and goals today?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest ones is we're already going through so much change in our daily routines, or maybe some people aren't. Some people work from home or are still going to work, right? So there's a couple different approaches there. But if you are someone that was going to work and now you're at home and you're laid off, or you are working from home, is don't try and change everything right away. So a lot of the time people, if they are laid off, maybe they've decided they're going to do a complete career change. They're going to, follow their dreams and do this and do that. And I'm going to work out every day and I'm going to do this. And your brain's like, whoa, 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 you just changed our entire daily life. And now you want to implement all of this. So I would tell people the first thing to do is to just sit down, write it out. How have things changed? How you're feeling about it? Things like that. Because when that's just all sitting in your brain and you're thinking about that constantly, it can be super overwhelming. So now that people are changing their habits, maybe you do want to start implementing a good habit. So one is a lot of my nutrition clients are now having more time to cook. So they're wanting to try new recipes and things like that, which is leading them to eat better, which is really great. But then they're kind of adding on top of that, and I'm going to up my workouts and again, that's a lot, right? So I would tell them, start with one healthy habit, something that you is going to bring you joy throughout your day, especially through something like this. So if you wanted to try cooking, or you wanted to try a new online workout, maybe you were nervous to go to a class and do that, try it at home, and that way you're doing it from the comfort of your own home and not worried about feeling judged or out of place, right? So when you are building those new habits, let's start with adding it on to the tail end of something, right? So especially for like one of my nutrition clients, is if they've already started to make changes in their diet and they want to learn to cook, okay, we'll add that on and add on to, drinking more water, things like that. But you can't change your complete daily routine in a snap of your fingers, right? So you want to add on, good, because we have those routines through our day where we have the cues, the routine, and the reward, right? So add on a habit that is going to be simple, you're going to be able to stick to, and add it on to something else. So if it's drinking more water, maybe you're starting your day with water now instead of coffee. And so every night you put out a glass of water beside the coffee machine. So there's your cue, it's right there. You're going to drink that water. You're going to have that reward of feeling hydrated. You're going to do that continuously until you feel good about that, and then add on something else so that your brain isn't completely overwhelmed, which they are overwhelmed right now with everything else going on, right? So we want to add in those good habits and create those good reward systems so we're feeling good, that we get into the looking for the rewards of, I'm stressed, I'm going to drink wine, or I'm stressed, I'm going to eat, right? So it's adding in those good habits to create good rewards for ourselves.
I think when we first talked, so that was a couple months ago now. We talked about habits then as well, and that was very much kind of the same message, taking things one step at a time, right? But now, what I'm just trying to summarize what you said there. Now that we are in such a sensitive environment and space, you might have to pull them back even more and take a half step at a time, a quarter step at a time,
Yeah.
right? Making it as consumable and achievable as possible. So putting a lot of conscious thought into what are the practices that I can do, or the micro practices I can do that can make slow progress, and then it builds up over time. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, you want to make because once you have something into your routine, it becomes a way of life for you. So it's making sure when you're creating those habits that your routine becomes something you want a part of your life. And that takes time. That's not an overnight thing.
Okay, so what I did in advance of this podcast was I just let a few people know. I put it out on some social media that I was going to be interviewing a life coach, and I was just accumulating a few questions. So some very specific scenario based questions, and if I'm going to present them to you, and if there are ones that you don't feel comfortable answering, we'll move on to the next one. Okay.
Sounds good.
So the notion nowadays, coming from professionals such as yourself, is we need to control the external stimulus that we're taking in, whether it's the news, but particularly people. Who are you talking to right now, right? So you
Yeah.
want to surround yourself with good, positive people. What if you are, what if the one negative person in your life is your spouse? Negative not by choice, but negative because of
Yeah.
the situation. How do you handle that?
I think you have to have a conversation with them. I think you have to really focus on your relationship and setting those boundaries. And one thing that my husband and I have actually practiced is, when one of us is feeling overwhelmed, we've said to the other one, I want to vent something. This is just a vent. Do you have the space for this right now? And sometimes I'll say no. Sometimes he says no, and we come back to it at a later time, because if your spouse is being negative, maybe it's negative, maybe it's fear for them, and they don't have their regular outlet to deal with their fear or their stress, right? So together, I think coming up with a solution of, do you have the space for this? This is just my point of view. You don't have to agree with me, and allowing them to put that out there. Now, if they're constantly negative, that's where you have to be stern to say, you know, I'm coming from a place of fear as well. Your negativity is not helping me, so I'm going to put this boundary in place that I can't have your negativity dumped on me all the time, because it's going to put us in a really bad place as well, right? So I think you need to be able to have that open conversation with them to discuss, is it negativity? Is it your fear? Maybe you have a conversation of, how can I help you deal with your fear or your negativity? Is there something I can do? But I don't have the space for this every day.
Makes sense. I can see, of course, when you say no to your spouse, it could create more friction. But at the same time, by giving yourself that space, like let's assume that you're not ready for that conversation that particular day or time,
Yeah.
you give them more ability to open up at a future date when you are ready, right? So you can have a more candid conversation then, rather than a half involved or yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, if they come to you and they're negative and they're, oh, this and that and this and that, and you just came from a place where you have encountered something fearful, or you're dealing with something, your reaction may be to snap at them. You're always negative, you're blah, 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 blah. And then you end up not communicating, or not feeling kind of safe with each other. So I think it's important to have that open dialogue of,
Yeah.
do you have this space right now? And it's okay to say no, because you might not. And at the same time, that's not benefiting you. And that in return wouldn't benefit them as well.
Right. So be honest about it. Don't just say yes for yes sake, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a coach, now depending on what paradigm you follow, what philosophy you follow, we can all agree that health has many different pillars, right? Some people call them wheels, a wheel of health, pillars of health, whatever. But all I'm saying is, you know, a person's holistic health includes professional relationships, personal, financial, your physical health, spiritual, whatever it is. In this particular time, there are many people that have taken a massive hit financially.
Yeah.
And this could stretch for, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, right? So taking a big hit on that particular pillar of health will naturally impact other areas.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming that this is something that comes up with your clients. How do you address something like that? And the pillar taking a big health hit rather doesn't have to be financial. It can just be in any other pillar. How do you
Yeah.
balance out that wheel?
Yeah. So a big one is, like you said, financially. Luckily, a lot of my clients are still working. I work with a lot of doctors, nurses. So a big one with them is stress in their health, because they're putting their health to the wayside. Not only are they walking into the front lines, but they're not sleeping, they're not eating properly, they're not able to take care of themselves, because a lot of them are working overtime. Um, and again, a lot of my clients are moms, so they're either working moms, but a lot of stay-at-home moms. So that's one that's been super tricky as well, because a lot of these moms have had kids who are in school, or kids even my kids' age, who just don't understand. And so even, when I'm fearful or I'm stressed or I've had enough of the same four walls, my kids just don't understand that I may be stressed, right? So I think we need to, and again, I feel like very repetitive saying, is going back to our stress reduction habits and creating those good routines, because at the end of the day, your stress and your mental health affects your immune system, which then affects your health. And if your health isn't good, you can't provide for your kids, you can't work. If some people are starting over financially, right? And then again, there's also people who financially have taken a hit. So the thought of even being able to stock up on groceries is a stress to them, right? So it's taking each individual client and figuring out, okay, well, what can we do for you to maintain some sort of mental sanity through this? So with moms, it could be getting your kids to help you plan out their next day. So if they're bored one day, sit down with them and discuss, okay, what would you like to do tomorrow? Okay, they want to go to the park. Well, we can't. So let's create a park in the living room and do something fun with them, or get them to create a schedule or a routine for themselves throughout the week so that they feel a little bit of that normal routine. Because I think it's hard, we take on ourselves and we say, oh, this is so hard as a parent, we're trying to entertain our kids and stuff. They're going through change as well. They can't see family, they can't see their friends, that, some kids are missing prom, things like that, right? So we still have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and our mental health using this stress reduction, maybe teaching them. Maybe this is a great time. Teach them how to cook. Maybe they're going to university next year, or maybe they're getting to that age where they could learn to cook for themselves. And then that's going to allow them to have their tools to deal with stress as well. And then, of course, a lot of the people who are still going to work, and I have, clients who are going to work who are very fearful. They struggle with asthma, and they struggle with social anxiety already. So the thought of going to work is very stressful for them. So we'll work on things that they can do. So a big one is doing their breathing and even working their lungs to help strengthen their lungs, or stress reduction, or sleep. Maybe we're teaching them better sleep habits, right? So that they're like, okay, I'm doing what I can right now at home, so that when I do go out and I face these fears, I know that I kind of have this tool belt that's filled, that's allowed me to have some sort of peace of mind that I'm doing all I can to be strong if something does happen, or so I can continue to work so that I can have financial stability for me and my family.
So, you referred to several times stress reduction activities. What are Laura's?
Breathing. I'll always go back to breathing. So I breathe, well, I breathe all the time, but controlling my breath. So when things are getting stressful, it's taking a step back. So my big one, and I think we talked about this last time on the podcast, was coming into your body. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, your blood comes away from your digestive tract and it goes into your limbs, because you're going into that fight or flight state, right? And you can feel when you're getting that overwhelmed, close to a panic attack, where you're not in your body. So, okay, let's bring myself back in. So I'll notice everything in the room, the colors, the smells, the shapes, the sounds, all of those things. I'll put my hand on my belly. I'll notice, wait, I'm not breathing through my belly. It's all through my chest, right? So I'll come back to my belly breathing, nice deep breath. Sometimes I'll even put on like YouTube and I'll put on a breathing meditation. And it's funny because the kids will stop and they'll watch and they'll start doing it as well. So it's going back to that breathing. So that's a huge one for me that you can do anywhere at any time. Exercise is huge for me. I find if I'm really stressed, sometimes it's a run, sometimes it's yoga, sometimes it's mobility, just whatever I feel my body needs. And of course, like a nice bath or a relaxing herbal tea, something like that. But I think what actually has changed my life is being able to take a step back and remove myself from that moment of that like fear, panic, your shoulders are up, you're tense, and breathing through that and talking yourself through, I'm okay, I'm strong, I'm calm, I can face this. And the more you can kind of tell yourself these things in practice, the more it's going to become your normal life. So going back to the breath is always my number one thing.
Okay. So I want to ask you a similar question, and it may yield the same answer, but I think right now we are in a state where we have limited energy because we're not sleeping as well. We may not be eating as well. We're just so out of flux. I truly, truly believe that now more so than ever that we need to learn how to manage and regulate our energy levels.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that, A? And then B, what are your tips and tricks to regulating your energy levels?
Yeah. So yes, I do agree with that. Absolutely. Because some days can be completely overwhelming. And even when you are stuck at home, if it's raining or snowing, then it's easy to kind of get into that where you just feel zapped already, where you just feel blah. You're at home and you're like, well, I can't go outside. I can't even go to a place. I can't go to the library, things like that. So sometimes you do take that time to take a nap, or you have kids, that's not always an option. So a great way to bring up your energy, if you know that you're not completely burnt out, depleted, or things like that, is I love putting on music, especially like tropical music that kind of like brings me that feeling of I could be on a beach, I could be outside playing, and I move my body. So whether that's just dancing with the kids or singing, because singing is so great for triggering that vagal nerve to bring that calmness, right? So sometimes it is we get stuck in that low vibrational energy, right? Where like this sucks, this is scary, I'm tired, I'm this, I'm that, right? And we tell ourselves that, and then you can just feel that energy being sucked out of you, feeling that way. So sometimes it is that, or on the other hand, you are a frontline worker and you're exhausted from working so much, right?
Right.
So coming home and taking care of your energy and taking care of yourself at this time, if you need additional supplementation, don't be afraid to look into that or speak to a professional about that. Um, Creating a good sleep habit. So if you are someone who watches the news in bed, watches TV in bed, take the TV out of your room, because when you're laying in bed in that fight or flight state, absorbing all of that blue into your eyes, right? That's already disrupting your melatonin. You're not going to be able to relax. Create your bedroom like a safe place, a calming, safe place, right? So you can go in, you can relax, have a good normal bedtime routine where you do have something calming, like a calming tea or a bath or something like that, right? So again, it's creating that routine so your body can be like, okay, there's routine. I'm calm, like your brain's calm, right? But it is exhausting, and sometimes just being inside all day, especially with kids, is totally exhausting. So sometimes I put on a movie and I lay down and I watch movies with them. And some days we play out on the deck all day. And I think you kind of have to remember to allow yourself that some days are going to feel totally crappy and you're going to be overwhelmed and exhausted, and you're going to go to bed early, and tomorrow's a new day. And I think it's just honoring that energy sometimes, but also realizing, am I creating this negative down energy all the time because I'm absorbing so much, and allowing myself to kind of have that, this sucks. I'm just going to let it suck until it's better, right? So we need to sometimes create our own good positive energies, and sometimes we just need to let it suck.
So you've mentioned kids several times. Of course, your kids are a big part of your life, um, and a large part of many of your clients' lives.
Mm-hmm.
How are you communicating this situation with them so that you're not making them afraid, but at the same time helping them understand the severity of the situation and why it is that you can't go to the park, and you know
Yeah.
how are you speaking to them about this?
So they don't really understand because they're 3 and 4, almost 4 and 5. So they don't really understand. So we tell them it's a germ, and germs can sometimes be harmful. So right now, there's people out there who are working to clear the germ, and we need to help them by not touching the germ and spreading it. So sometimes, the germ could be on the park, the grocery stores, things like that. So if we're not spreading the germ, then the people getting rid of it can allow us to go back out. So we need to do our part. And it's funny because my daughter Lucy said the other day, she goes, "What if they get tired?" And I said, "Well, they'll take a nap and they'll rest like we do, and they'll keep fighting it, and we'll keep helping them." So that's a big part of it. They also they take their vitamins and their greens and stuff like that, and they know that that helps their immune system. They know that their fish oil is brain food, things like that. So I think for them, when we talk about this helps you if you do get sick, which is a germ, to fight that germ and get rid of it. So they already feel like they're doing something as well to take care of themselves or to fight that germ that may seem a little scary to them, even though they don't understand. They know that obviously it's not a good thing if they can't go to the park or they can't go to preschool or things like that, right? So I think it's just kind of helping them understand, but also teaching them. So we do a lot of breathing with them as well,
Hmm.
but teaching them how to, you know, um, calm their nervous system or, support their immune systems as well, so that, when they do understand or other things come up later in their life, they already have these tools to deal with things.
I was just gonna say that you're creating such a strong foundation for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they may not understand the entirety or the severity of it, but they know it's bad.
Yeah.
And because it's bad, there's certain things that they can do to take some semblance of control, right? So whether it's
Yeah.
taking their vitamins, you're getting them breathing, that's excellent. That's really, really excellent. And is this something that you help your clients do with their kids as well?
Yeah, yes, definitely. So we talk about with clients a lot is big emotions. So kids, again, they learn from us. So it's inevitable that we're going to have stress. So for me to say to a client, if let's say they deal with it by drinking wine, right? So for me to say, okay, well, just eliminate your stress and then you won't drink wine. That's impossible, right? So, okay, well, what can we add in? So your cue is your stress. What can we add in here that's going to give you that same reward of feeling of relaxation? So again, it's when we do these things, our kids do them naturally as well because they watch everything we do and they listen. And that's become more and more apparent to me when they say things later on that you're like, I had no idea they were listening or I had no idea they were watching, right? So
Yeah.
for me, it becomes very important that it's not just about me and my health, that it's they're watching, they're listening. So the language I use, the techniques I use, that's what they're going to pick up, right?
Right. They are very much are sponges, and I think that's the old adage. Kids are sponges. They will absorb everything they see, hear, and they will replicate. They'll emulate. Right. So
Yep.
you got to be really
Yep.
careful. I do
Yeah,
want to
and that's
step
the
back.
same.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say that's the same as sometimes that we try and protect them too much because they are going to go out into a world where somebody's going to say something that we would never say or do something we would never do. So again, it's teaching them how to be resilient enough to deal with that. So again, not teaching them that like you can never be stressed, you can never have big emotions, you can't cry, you can't be angry, things like that. It's just learning how to properly decipher those emotions and be able to bring yourself back to your morals, your beliefs, and go, okay, that was wrong. That was on them, not on me. How can I regulate myself, right?
Right. Okay. I wanted to step back into what you were saying earlier about when we were talking about the financial pillar and how a lot of people, not just some, a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck right now.
Mm-hmm.
I know one of the tough things is we want to be able to control what we eat, how much we move, blah blah blah. But I want to talk specifically about what we eat because that costs money. Movement is free in theory. Unfortunately, when you are at the bottom of your bank account, you don't have that much money to spend on food. And typically, when it comes to food, the cheaper you go, the more processed it is, the lower quality it is. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but just combining your both your backgrounds as a life coach and as a nutritionist, let's make this a little bit more positive. I think that you can still have a pretty decent meal on a budget. If you are on that budget, what would you be buying? What are the first things you would be looking for when you go grocery shopping?
Yeah. So some of the first things I would be looking for would be Um, so if you are looking for those canned goods, those things that are on a budget and are going to stay uh, in your pantry or in your freezer long enough, it's things that are going to still be high in protein. They're not going to be high in sugars and um, processed foods, because at the end of the day, those still aren't going to fill you. So you are going to still constantly feel hungry. So some of the things I would look for would be black beans, chickpeas. We chat about lentils. Quinoa is great; it's a complete protein, and I know a lot of people this would be off their diet. So again, looking for meats that have gone on sale that you can put in the freezer, right? Or frozen veggies and fruit. And there's a big misconception. A lot of people think fresh is always better, but actually, a lot of the frozen berries and stuff are picked actually at their peak of ripeness and frozen, as opposed to
Okay.
the berries that you're buying fresh. Those are usually picked before they're ripe, and then you get them and they don't taste great, right? So I think a lot of people are like so worried that they're not getting their fresh fruits and veggies, which is really great when you're able to go to a farmer's market or things like that, right? But if you are able to go to the grocery store and buy those bulk bags of stir fried veggies and frozen berries and things like that, those are going to be $6 box of strawberries that aren't even going to last you, versus a whole bag of mixed berries is going to last you a long time. And I make a lot of things with like an oatmeal bake or muffins and smoothies, which are all really great because they'll last you all week as well, but they're baked in and they are cheap. Like muffins are very cheap to make. Once a lot of people have those baking staples in their cupboard, so they don't have to go out and buy all that, right? So if you're baking things like muffins or casseroles or things you can freeze, those don't take a lot of ingredients, and you can have fillers like brown rice or a quinoa stir fry, which are going to bulk up your meals, which again, yes, quinoa may look expensive when you are buying it, but when you look at the amount that you really need, it's
Right.
not a whole lot, right? So I think it's kind of taking your meals and finding those bulk fillers that are non-perishable and are still healthy, and you can get them on sale as well and just freeze that stuff. So that I think is a huge lifesaver for financially. And then of course non-perishable, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't bring this up at all to downplay the real financial crisis, because it is there, it does exist. So I apologize if I come off as though I'm downplaying it, but the reality is there are ways that we can optimize the way that we shop. Like I know I shop at Walmart sometimes. A bag of frozen peas there, 2 kilograms is $4, and that's gonna last you a while. Like
Mm-hmm.
rice, the quinoas, the other frozen vegetables, canned fish. I like to buy my lentils dry and
Mm-hmm.
cook them myself, because the quantity that you get from that, it's crazy compared to what you get canned, right? And but even then, a can of beans is like $1 or $2, right? So you may
Yeah.
have to omit that $4 chocolate bar, or some of these luxuries, if you will, right? But these are things that you may have to sacrifice in this time to make ends meet,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And even if you were maybe buying organic beans and things like that before, it's okay to not buy organic right now and things like that, right? So I think people kind of have been trained into that buy fresh organic fruits and veggies and stuff. But right now it is, like you said, doing the best you can. And when you and buying organic versus not organic isn't going to make or break your immune system or your health or things like that. So I think people need to take that stress off themselves as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there is, and you can attest to this. There is a very large there's a lot of room in between that $10 bag of kale and, I don't know, a $1 cinnamon bun or whatever it is, right? There's a lot of ways to
Mm-hmm.
find healthy choices in between those two extremes, right? And we
Yeah.
just need to know where to look and how to look for them.
Or
Um,
if you're looking even the 50% off cart, where things like bananas have gone bad, or they're not even bad, they're just brown and people wouldn't buy them. I'll buy those bananas, come home, peel them, put them in the freezer, and they're great for recipes and smoothies and things like that. And buying that sort of stuff, or even apples, so like apples that are starting to get a little bit mushy, I'll peel them, cut them up, put them, freeze them in a bag, and then I just throw them in my oatmeal in the morning. So it is taking some of that stuff where you are worried it's going bad. Just research some ways that you can freeze it and implement it into other meals, and that can save you a lot.
Yeah. So, out of curiosity, what are you doing with your clients today? I know the language that a lot of us are using is take things day by day, do what you can, what have you. But assuming that this stretches, and I do genuinely believe that it will stretch for 3 to 6 months, how do you find that balance between taking things day by day, but also having some semblance of what things look like on the other side when we get out of this? So not just setting yourself so far back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's what's so hard for people is if their job was their life, then it's hard to not know when you're going back to work or how you're going to adapt or things like that. So I think it's, I mean, I can give them all the tools they want, but at the same time, this is something we've never dealt with before, and I won't pretend that I have, right? So the best I can do for them is help them create routine as much as possible. And again, like if you had opened a small business that is now going to go under, that unfortunately, as much as I'd love to help you with, is not something that I could help with. I would love to help you on the other side, um, to build some resilience to bring yourself back up. But I think a lot of the hardships people are facing right now, um, I think a lot of people don't really know how to handle them because it's such an unknown. But as far as like my regular clients go, it's again your brain is looking for certainty, right? So it doesn't like that uncertainty. So again, it's how can I create certainty in my everyday life? So planning out your weeks ahead, right? You know, the next week nothing's really going to change. So plan as much as you can so that you have sort of that concrete structure that your brain is like, okay, that seems normal, that seems routine. I like that. So again, if you are adding in a new habit or if you're looking to change something, write it down and put it out there for yourself so that it does look like almost like a normal schedule for you so that you can create a little bit of certainty in your life. But I, to be honest, I've never helped through a situation like this. So to say, how to cope long-term financially and things like that, I really couldn't help, right? Yeah.
So what I've been asking of my guests recently is to give me a quick synopsis, a day in the life of you, of Laura, because when people hear you say routine and stress reduction, what have you, these are all very subjective, but it's always nice to hear what subjective means to you, what it looks like to you. So from the moment you get up in the morning to the moment you go to bed, what are the things that you just do, like you have to do, non-negotiables?
Yeah. So I get up in the morning. It's something I always do. So from the night before, I have a glass of water sitting out because I like to drink it room temperature, not cold, for my digestive system. I have mineral sea salts in there, and I'll add some lemon water. I'll start to brew my coffee. I have my water. So that's checked off for the day. And that's something that's been in my routine for a really, really long time. So I'll have my water, I have my minerals, which is really great. I'll do my vitamins. So my morning vitamins would be my B vitamins and my vitamin C. And then I will do my water with some electrolytes and greens powder. So again, that's something that I know when I ingest, I'm like, yes, there, help myself today, right? So I feel really good about that. I will start my coffee. Then I sit down and I do my journaling. And that, again, that's something that took a long time to get into my routine,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to turning on the TV first thing. But I just didn't allow myself to do that. I don't check social media, and I sit down and I have my coffee and I journal. And a lot of the time, it's quiet then because I get up earlier than the kids as much as possible. But my journaling is, I start with my affirmations. I do what I'm grateful for. So I do what I'm grateful for in the last 24 hours. So I'll pick a few specific things. So even if it's um, Tucker made me laugh because he did this. So I pick, things that are every single day. And then I actually write out my future self. So especially going through this is you pick your ideal future and then you put yourself into that situation. So my future self will be here doing this. This is how I feel. And you get very specific for yourself. And then again, it's, how I feel. And then like a last affirmation for the day. And then I'm usually making breakfast for the kids. They're up playing. We do breakfast. Sometimes they'll watch a little bit of cartoons in the morning if I have to do a little bit of work in the morning, or they'll play. And then I just try and get them outside every morning. So I try and follow almost like a preschool schedule, as in we get outside in the morning, we come in, we have lunch, we have a little bit of downtime. Maybe I'll do a little bit of work now that they're tired from being outside. Tucker still naps. Lucy does sometimes. So we'll have a good lunch. Right now, we are loving picnic lunches. So I'll just do have like some cheese, some beans, some cucumbers. And then again, that saves the stress from what am I going to make for lunch as a meal. So we do a lot of like little picnic lunches where you just fill the plate, let them pick at it. And they love that. And it just takes the stress off having to make another meal for sure. And then usually I'll do some work in the afternoon while Tucker's napping. Lucy will play, or she'll do some coloring or something beside me. And we usually try and before dinner, so we'll usually try and go back outside and play. And then we'll usually try and do some sort of learning. So we've been doing a lot of, we just did some YouTube Spanish stuff. They do some dance classes, which is super fun. Or we FaceTime and connect with like friends and things like that. Then dinner, I've been really trying to get them involved in dinner and things like that. If they're playing quietly, I usually leave them, but I usually try and get them involved in dinner, and we talk about food and things like that. And then there's definitely a workout in there somewhere. So sometimes it's morning, sometimes it's afternoon. I've been doing a lot of Zoom workouts with our community on the K Davis app. We have a free challenge going on right now. So it's really great because there's a lot of women on there and a lot of moms, and we get to connect and work out together, and it's super motivating. And then a lot of the time in the evening, after dinner, we try and get out for like a little walk or something like that. And then it's bedtime. And so we do our bedtime routine. If I don't fall asleep with them, then I usually come back out. That time of night, I try not to work. I try not to be on my phone. I try and put that stuff away, and move that into my relaxation time. So if that is reading, I love reading a lot of like self-help books, personal development, a meditation time, a bath, or stretching. We do a lot of mobility and stretching in the evening, which I've realized I am flexible. I am not mobile. So we've incorporated some mobility into our routine, which is really great. Take vitamins, and then I kind of just do my bedtime routine of, so we'll do like some stretching. I take my magnesium before bed, which helps a lot with my sleep and just relaxing. And then we don't watch TV in the bedroom or anything like that. And we'll read or just go to sleep.
There is literally no room in there for any negativity. There's not. Everything in there is comes from such a positive place, right? And I think you're setting such a good example. I'm assuming that you're sharing this with your clients as well, and that's what you encourage them to do. But literally, there is zero room for negativity in there. You're only doing things that promote either health or connection or just just those positive vibes. So good on you. That's amazing.
Thanks.
So
Yeah.
so out of curiosity, then, how have you shifted your business to make yourself more available to your clients now that it's all virtual? Or are you already primarily
I'm
virtual?
pretty much already all virtual.
Okay.
I do like connecting one-on-one with clients, but we do a lot of FaceTimes, especially with moms and things like that. And busy schedules, it's a lot easier to say, okay, we'll hop on a 15-minute call here. But I have been doing a lot of just free consults, like if you want to chat and you want to see if I can help you, because again, there's a lot going on, and as much as I'd love to help everyone, obviously I can't right now. But we'll do like a 15-minute chat, even if it is, there's a lot of people out there looking for things like vitamin C, or, they haven't taken vitamins before, but they've now read up on vitamins, but they don't want to just go out and just buy vitamins and start those, which is, I think, is really great, because they can do harm. And so we'll chat about maybe ways they can support their immune system or things like that. And then a lot of people I find are starting to want to try meal plans and cooking and things like that. So I've found that's really nice, because again, that's a really nice positive thing to be able to jump on with clients and help them learn how to cook. I've done some live cooking classes in our group, which is super fun,
Cool.
and just being able to bring a little bit of that positivity to people's day, and know that, if I am helping you find vitamins, that I am giving you a little bit of that mental sanity, that you are doing what you can in your control to support your immune system. And that actually gives a lot of people a lot of relief, or just helping them stay healthy with their nutrition and things like that, right? Just knowing that they're doing something, or what they can do, brings a lot of relief to them, right?
So if somebody wanted to join one of your cooking classes, your
Yeah.
lives, how do they find that? Where are you doing that?
Yeah. So, well, you can find me on Instagram at Laura Davies Health. But my good friend Kayla and I, we've ran challenges for quite a few years now. And this one we decided we're going to do free. And so you can head to my Instagram, and there's a link in the bio, and you can sign up for the challenge. It's every 2 weeks, but we are allowing people to kind of join through. So you'll get a meal
Okay.
plan, you get workouts. There's a bunch of different trainers on there. Every Saturday, we do Social Saturday, where we'll have a different health guest on Zoom. So we've done a sports doctor, a chiropractor, and then a pelvic floor specialist. So a lot of these things are awesome, because you'd have to pay to listen to these people speak. So we're providing home workouts, connection, community, things like that, free. And honestly, it's been wonderful for me too, because I get to talk to a lot of these other moms, where when we did challenges before and stuff, we didn't connect on Zoom, but they were all over the world, right?
Mhm.
So now that we are connecting, we're like, wow, we don't want to go back to not doing the Zoom stuff, because it's so wonderful to connect with these people, right?
There's an opportunity in everything. It truly, truly is,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
But yeah, no, thank you so much. You left a lot there. There are so many things that we can do, and just based on the things that you said, that's it's just evidence that we all have the ability to take control, or as much control as we can in a situation
absolutely.
like this. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
for
thank you
sure.
so much for your time, Laura.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to see you.
You as well. It's good to see that you're doing well as well.
Yeah, yeah, same.
Okay. Take care. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of My Evolved Life. If you found any value at all, and I know you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button below so you're always notified of new episodes. We'll be releasing a new episode every single week. So until next week, live an evolved life.